Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Megan.
We are recording. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's a little gloomy today in St. Louis, but what are you going to do?
We got lots of blue skies here in Virginia.
All right. Well, hey, so I'm going to do a quick little intro. So, for some people who have been watching, some people have been watching the Pointing It Out podcast. And for those of you who have just started joining us, I'm Megan Holmes. And I come from, I'm sitting here in St. Louis, Missouri, just outside of the city of St. Louis, Missouri, at my shop, which is the Needlepoint Clubhouse. And together with my friend and partner in crime with this podcast, Melissa McLeod, who is up in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, we have started this fun thing that we do where we just contact people and that are in the industry and have a conversation. So today, for our audience, we have Suzanne Howren. And I said that correctly, right, Suzanne? Okay.
Yes, you did.
Very good. So for those who may or may not recognize Suzanne by face, you will definitely recognize her name on Stitches to Go. Suzanne, this is my very favorite book. It's with me all the time.
Thank you. I really like to hear that.
And so a funny quick story for everybody before we get going here is that I have only been to about 4 markets, I think, 3 or 4. And I think it was in the Orlando market. Mm-hmm. I was with my dear coworker, Debbie, and we were eating breakfast. And in walks this lovely woman and a friend, Lori, who I know. And I said, "Hi, Lori, how are you today?" And she said, "This is Suzanne Howren." And I said, "Wait, he's Suzanne that's on my book?" And I got stars in my eyes, and I just thought it was awesome. And you very sweetly and kindly signed my book for me.
Did I do that for you?
You did, and I felt like I had just arrived in the needlepoint world. So I just feel like we talk about this book all the time. So what I was hoping to do was kind of maybe start at the beginning. So Suzanne, tell us kind of, when did you start needlepointing, or how did needlepoint arrive in your life?
Oh, well, my mother taught me probably a million years ago when I was in college. And it was a million years ago. I will not even begin to tell you how long ago that was, probably before you were born.
I doubt it.
I know. And then I guess I picked up kind of cross stitch in my 20s when I was employed, and it was a more economical way to do needlework. Mm-hmm. And then got back into needlepoint probably in the mid 80s.
So back up for just a second. So you're coming to us right now from Virginia, or
from Falls Church. We're a suburb of Washington, D.C.
Super. And did you grow up there and go to school there?
No, actually, I grew up in Virginia, but in the southern part of the state. I grew up in Norfolk.
Okay.
And I graduated from, it was Winthrop College then. It's now Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Okay.
Took a little detour and went to nursing school.
Oh, wow.
I worked as an RN for a while, and then decided I wanted a different life, and then sold pharmaceuticals for a while.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
And then I became a stay-at-home mother.
Very good. To how many children?
Just one.
One child. A boy or a girl?
A son.
Oh, very good.
Who is now an adult.
Well, that happens, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, it does, yes. I don't know how he got to be so old, because I'm not old enough to have a child that old. So, but
I get it. That's crazy. So you began your needlepoint kind of endeavor in college. You were working and did some cross stitching. And then when did it kind of become more of a part of your life? I got involved in the mid 80s in the American Needlepoint Guild. Very good. Yeah.
And our local chapter here is the Northern Virginia chapter. And I got to be very involved in that and decided, plus there was a very, very good local shop here at that time, the Needlewoman East. Some of the old timers in the industry will definitely remember the shop, and Sue Jennings, who was the owner of the shop.
Uh-huh.
And that's actually where I met Beth Robertson, who was my partner, who unfortunately passed away 5 years ago. So
okay. So we can get to that in a second. So you start going to the shop, you start doing some needlepointing, you meet some friends, and you don't suddenly one day say to Beth, "Hey, let's write a book." So
no, that's not quite how it happened. She and I, we met each other through a mutual friend and through A&G, and we both decided we liked stitches and threads, and we started playing with them. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this morning, trying to remember. I had gone to a cash and carry market, and met Ricky Henry, the designer of Renaissance Designs, owner and designer of Renaissance Designs, and said to her, "Oh, would you like some stitch guides?" And she said, "Sure." So at that point, Beth and I started doing stitch guides for Ricky. And then we picked up a few other customers along the way. I'm talking probably early 90s when, and that's when the thread market really sort of exploded. When I first started going to the Needlewoman East, you could buy floss, pearl cotton, and pattern and wool.
Sure.
And some silk, but that was about it. But then all of a sudden, the thread fortunately sort of exploded, and we had lots and lots of options. So Beth and I started doing stitch guides. I'm having a senior moment here. I can't think of the word I wanted. We worked together.
You acquired the canvas from the designer. They said this would be a good canvas.
Right, and we had the canvas in hand, and then we would get together and plan threads and stitches. And she was the one that really in the beginning was the computer whiz.
Okay.
And one day we were in the Needlewoman East, and she had a paper with some of the stitch diagrams she had done for things because we were trying to pull threads for a stitch guide. And a friend of ours looked at it and said, "You should write a book." And we kind of looked at each other and said, "Well, okay, why don't we write a book?" So 1996, our first book was Stitches for Effect.
Okay.
And we collaborated. We went through lots and lots and lots of sources and came up with 100 what we felt were fairly basic stitches. And then we sat down and looked at them and thought, okay, this is a good stitch for grass, or this is a good stitch for sky, or this is a good stitch for leaves. This is a good stitch for clothing.
So can I, so let me just interrupt you, because I want to just kind of peel that back a little bit. So I've always been curious, and I before we got starting here today, I said, now I don't want to embarrass myself because you've been doing this longer than me, but so I might ask some questions that seem kind of silly, but for those of us who are a little bit newer to the industry, so would you say that the kind of first book that came out was Joe Ippolito's book? Was the Bible the one that kind of, is that the one that
I think, I really do think that Joe, Joe, and that was one of the sources that we used. And because for a long time, that was your source.
Yes,
that was it.
So I guess what I'm trying to boil down here is nobody really owns the rights to stitches or the names of the stitches. I mean, so did Joe kind of collect like what you call Nabucco and what you call, and so then she put those together, like, because I've always been curious, like, where did all this stuff? Why do I say Nabucco 3 times a day? Where did that come from? Why do I saying mosaic? Like,
I know. When we started doing this, what we discovered, and I don't think I'm misquoting, is that you cannot copyright a stitch. What you can copyright is your diagram.
The diagram, yes. I've always heard
diagram and that numbering. And if you go back and look like at historical needlework, some of the stuff that was done in medieval times, and then some of the British stuff, particularly. When you see stitch samplers, you see mosaic stitch, you see the herringbone stitch, you see Bargello, and Jane Zimmerman, which is a name that some people will recognize, was a teacher for A&G and EGA for many years, was really a really good authority on historical needlework. And cool. I think probably our current, one of the current experts on that would be Meredith Willett.
Sure.
Because she really she's fascinated with the history and where did it come from and how do you do it. And
I like
and
that.
So, but we used a lot of sources to choose stitches for our books.
Got it.
Joe's was one of them. I mean, anything we could find,
sure. Okay.
we went to.
So that answers my question. And so then you set out to create a book that offered a person the sort of the added knowledge of here's where this stitch would be great on your canvas. Was that
right? And
premise, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted to do. And I think I'm fair in saying that we were sort of first that did that. And the thing that's nice about those books is, and this was Beth, because she was very incredible, but and what many people tell us are the indexes, because you can go to the back and look up an effect and say, okay, where's grass or what's sky, or you can look up a thread because it's indexed both by stitch, by effect, and by thread. And then the other thing that's nice is the third book, Even More Stitches for Effect, cross-references all three books. So that, so that
indexes
you look up grass, right? You look up grass and it tells you where in each of the three books you can find a stitch for grass or for sky or for clothing or whatever.
Hey, that was pretty brilliant for sales too, right?
It really was. We're really well, and we did 100 stitches in stitches. Well, each of the three books has 100 stitches. And I don't know why we chose that number, but we did.
Hey, that sounds like a good round number to me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like a good number. There's also, unfortunately, a lot of the thread information in the books is a little dated, because some of the threads are no longer available, available threads that are not in the book. But there is a usage chart, and I think, you know, it maybe it says needle necessities overdyed floss, and if you want overdyed floss, you know, you can get it from Threadworks, or you can get it from whomever else is doing it these days.
Yeah, so that's the point I was going to make, is that that's sort of our job as owners and as teachers in our shops to say, oh, well, that's not here, but let me tell you what's like that now, or what that has morphed into.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So you take these three books. How much time did it take you to do? Over 1 year, 2 years?
Well, I looked it up this morning because I couldn't remember. Stitches for Effect was copyrighted in 96.
Okay.
More Stitches for Effect was copyrighted in 97.
Okay.
And then Even More was copyrighted in 2000.
So then,
I think what happened in between.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. We what?
Well, so then I was just going to kind of get to the logistics. So you have them printed and you begin distributing them on your own at that point, the books, or had you always gone through another?
No, we did. Well, we've never sold direct. When we first our first distributor was the Karen Collection.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And now the books are distributed. I'm sorry?
I was just explaining that for those
the
who
Karen
don't know,
Yeah, it's watercolors, wildflowers, impressions, snow,
Swat crystal. Yep. Yep.
Swat crystal, Rachelette, and water lilies. That's the other one, water lilies.
That allowed you the opportunity to sort of focus.
So it was the first
business, because that's a big deal, is to distribute. I mean, and to get all the orders and to do
yes,
packaging and the shipping. And so
right,
you're able to kind of say we're going to.
Right. Well, what we did was we had a printer. I'll tell you a funny story.
Okay.
We had thought, we went to our first market, and it was in, it tells you how long ago it was. Anybody who's still in the industry remembers it was in Anaheim. So that's how long ago it was. And we were in Lois's booth, the Karen Collection booth. And we had decided, Beth's husband's office had a large printer and a coil binder. And we had decided, all right, well, we take orders and then we go to his office and do it. Well, we came home and we had orders for 1,000 books.
Oh.
And yeah.
And how many pages?
And we looked at each other and said, and I think we need to find a printer, which is what we did. So we actually, and what I'm still doing is print on demand. When I get an order from one of my distributors, then I go to my printer and he prints and ships. So that's how we do it.
Interesting. So then, so those 3 books were obviously a success, and they're
right
still on today. But then, so I just looked at the copyright date. Sorry,
Stitches to Go.
2004 for Stitches to Go.
Right.
So then, was that the next?
That was the next. Yes, that was the next step. And we just decided that so many stitchers travel, and so we brainstormed and came up with a small size book. And what Stitches to Go is all of the stitches from the 3 Stitches for Effect books, but none of the text.
Right.
It's just the stitches. So, and you know, we thought it was an easy. We were both stitchers. I still am a stitcher. And it's easy. It's small enough to drop in your bag. It was not heavy. And so we thought, okay, let's go for it. So,
well, and the other piece about this book, you're right, it's small, it's condensed,
right,
it's got some paper in the back, it's got journal section, and
right,
the other piece that I like, we teach a class and we require everyone to buy this. We call it Beyond Basket Weave. So in other words, once you've mastered,
I like that requirement.
So then
Thank you.
Of course you do. Because what it allows us to do is say, like, go to page 6 and we're going to look at this or whatever.
Right.
But what I also like about your style is the numbering. So not all books do the needle position, basically. So
right.
That's a lot of work too. I mean, this took a lot of work to put all this together.
Well, it did. And we felt very strongly about the numbering. There are some teachers who don't believe in it, but that wasn't us. We felt very strongly that that needed to be done. And that kind of leads me to, can I kind of diverge here? Is that okay? When we're talking about stitch numbering, can I do that?
So we've gone 3 books, 4 books, and now I think what you're going to do is take me to the latest book. Am I correct?
To the latest book. I want to say too, though, that it's not that my other distributors, Rainbow Gallery picked up the books, and Brinkley, and the Meredith Collection. So all of those are distributors. But so, last year in Orlando, where we met.
So that just means that for those people who are brick and mortar,
right,
or who have a storefront, even if it's an electronic storefront, that's where they go to buy the book. But the books are available to any local needlepoint shop owner to be purchased by those distributors. I just wanted to clarify that. So everyone
yeah, that's a good, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a good point to make. Last year when we were in Orlando, Sally London, who was the general manager for Rainbow Gallery, approached me.
Sorry, we have to remember our audience. So again, Rainbow Gallery is anything that's on a white card. So if you've ever stitched with Silk Lame, Splendor,
Pebbly, Splendor seems to be the one that people flare.
Frosty Rays, Fireworks,
Frosty Rays, Entice,
any of the white,
all of that
is Rainbow Gallery. So
that's right. That's right. Everything is on the white card, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But Sally approached me about, they owned the copyright to a very old needlepoint book called Father B. And Father B was a Episcopal priest in North Carolina, who was a needlepoint designer and teacher. And his book had been around forever. Well, I say forever, but I think it was first copyrighted in the early 90s. The book was pretty much out of.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
The internet is cutting out just a little bit. I want to make sure. So it was originally copyrighted. When was it?
I think it was 1990. Let me.
Okay. That's okay. You cut out. I just wanted to make sure we were with you. Because if you had said 1890, that would have been even more.
I'm 1982. No, not that long ago. 1982 was the original.
Okay.
But the diagrams in the original are very small, and they're not numbered.
Okay.
So Sally asked me about would I consider redoing it, and I said, well, yeah. Let me look at it and see what's involved. So I went through it, and there were a lot of stitches in it that I didn't remember seeing anyplace else.
Oh, cool.
Because Father B developed a lot of these stitches himself. So I put them together in this little book.
Yay!
It's called Father B Stitches for the 21st Century. And just so you can see, big diagrams with lots of with numbering. And when we were talking about numbers before, it made me think about this, because Father B did not number his stitches. So I read through the text, at which he was very texty, suggestions of how to stitch it. I didn't always agree with them. So I consulted a couple of friends, one of Ann Caswell and Tony Manieri, whose needlepoint knowledge I highly respect. And they helped me with, okay, Suzanne, this is how we want to number this. I had done the numbering and they proofed it for me. And if they thought there was a better way to stitch it, we consulted and decided, okay, that's what we wanted to do. So that's what this is. It's not the whole Father B book, because I think his whole book had about 300 stitches in it. This, I think, 130 in it. But I think what I did was I pulled out the ones that I don't think you'll find anyplace else.
That's super. I hadn't ever heard anyone describe it that way, so I appreciate that. That's awesome. And so you made another point that I'm going to kind of divert back to just a little bit. So,
okay.
You know, we have people come into the shop, and I'm pretty laid back, right? I guess you could, I don't know, millennial, not really, I'm past that, but I'm pretty laid back. And I understand technology. I understand the use of cameras and phones, and, you know, we have people come into the shop all the time and they say, well, could I just take a picture of that stitch out of the book? And I look at them and I'm like, no, you can't. And here's why. Mm-hmm. Somebody has worked really, really hard to put this book together and deserves to get paid for it. And so I think there's a couple reasons why I still love paper books. Number one is because you have this in front of you. You can make some markings. It's black and white. I have highlighter in mine. I've got crayons sometimes in mine. You know, it's wonderful for that reason. Mm-hmm. But But the other reason I think that we just need to hit home is that somebody's worked really hard to put this together, and we are putting money in your pocket when we buy this book, right? And
right.
you know, you've read the text, you've gone through the painstaking. My guess is you hired some friends to help you. You know, like it has taken a long time to put all this together, which is why you deserve credit. You know, when people write stitch guides and things, you know, there's just always a lot of conversation about, well, you don't really own that stitch, and you know, and I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but
right.
somebody's making a living by, you know, selling these books, and that somebody has a face and a name, and that somebody is you, who's right here. And so I just wanted to kind of remind people that, you know, that's,
Yeah.
you know, and
that's an issue in this industry and has been for a long time. And it's a problem sometimes with stitch guides too, because somebody will say, oh, well, I had that stitch guide. You make me a copy of that. And it's, well, no, that's how that designer makes her money or his money. And
I do tell people
it's a fine line.
It is. And again, you know, I'm not here to I don't want to belabor a point, but you know,
right.
Yes, you can Google mosaic stitch. Sure you can, because no one owns it. And if you can find a diagram, great, use it. But also remember,
right.
no one's making any money doing that. Also, I like, as you know, tech friendly as I try to be, I love paper and pencil. I'm sitting here with notes talking to you with paper and pencil. I like to be able to draw lines on my paper, and it helps my brain to learn the stitch. So
right.
I just think that's another argument for actually having these books and having the paper in front of you. As sometimes antiquated as I get with this industry, I get frustrated with the old school.
Yes. Right.
I think that it's still very, very valuable to use paper and pen and to have these visual diagrams. So I think it's important.
Well, and I think if we don't support that, it'll go away.
Right. That's right.
And we don't want that. And we don't want that to happen.
That's right.
So
that's right. So you've got the new book. The old books are still going strong, but I think what you mentioned is that you do have a couple of books, a byline, and a couple of books that are not out any longer. And did you?
Yes.
Could you talk a little?
Well, yeah, the first one was the Thread Thesaurus that Beth and I wrote with Ann Caswell. We published that in 2005, and that was a huge undertaking. It was a compilation of all of the threads that we knew of that were on the market at that time. Right. And what we did was a size comparison. Our standard was a strand of floss, 3, 5, 8, and 12 pearl cotton, because it was our premise that if you knew where you could use the strand of number 5 pearl cotton, if we told you that a single strand of watercolors was the same size as number 5 pearl cotton, then you would know how you could use it.
Smart.
So it really, and people look for it, and it's a shame the book is out of print, because it had a lot of information. But the three of us worked very hard on that. And then Beth and I had a book, I don't remember when this one was first published, that was New Twist on Needlework Embellishment.
Oh.
And it was things like applique and padding, and how to ravel flare to make a different look, how to ruche, and so it was just that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And Beth and Meredith Willett had knots, fur, and turkey work, which is also unfortunately out of print, but I think that you can get it from Meredith on her website. But they worked on that together. I wasn't involved in that one.
Gotcha. So, so you got all these books to your credit, but my guess is that doesn't take up all of your time. In fact, I know that doesn't take up all of your time,
right?
Now that the research and the print is there. So, and I also know that you happen to live very close by to, isn't it the Waste Not?
Yes, the Waste Not. That's my local shop.
Yes. And
yeah.
so talk to me about what your involvement is with that shop now. Well,
I've been,
the caveat of COVID aside.
well, that's right. COVID aside. I do teach for Lori. We've taught, let me see, what have I taught? I've taught 2 or 3 painted canvases. Beth and I taught several canvas embellishment classes for her. Everything that I've taught since recently for her has been a project class. We've got a couple in the pipeline, but with COVID, we don't know when we'll be able to do it. She just doesn't have a lot of, she can't social distance. So
I understand that. So were you doing any traveling at all to teach? Excuse me.
I haven't. I had some physical issues that kind of tied me up for a couple of years. But I do teach with Meredith Willett and Tony Manieri, and it's more of it's probably more like a dog and pony show, because the three of us sort of egg each other on all day long. But it's great fun. It's great fun.
You strike me
as
a person who would have a hard time getting words in edgewise with those two.
Oh, well, yeah, it does happen that way. It does. Yeah. But there are times when I can hold my own, but other times.
How did you, were the 3 of you sort of in the industry around the same time, going to market around the same time? Is that?
Actually, what started this, this is another Beth idea. In, let me think, 2009, Beth came up with the idea that the 4 of us propose and teach for the A&G seminar.
Oh.
And so we taught it at the A&G seminar, and what it basically was a canvas embellishment class.
Okay.
And the way it worked was every student of us, and they sent us a color copy of it, and we got together and spent 2 days doing a lot of laughing, some working, but more laughter than anything else. And we came up with 6 areas on every canvas for every student. And then we went into class, and it was a 4-day class. So every student had one of us for 1 day. Oh. And by the time the class was over, after 4 days, everybody had a complete stitch and thread guide.
Cool.
So we did that several times at the A&G seminar, and then we did it several times for some shops, and then when Beth died in 2015, Debbie Steeler, who is another national teacher, taught with us for a while, but she's decided to go back into retirement. And so right now it's just the 3, and we'll see. I mean, we tentatively have a class scheduled for next summer, but with COVID, we just have to wait and see what happens.
It's on hold. And, we've been trying to do the best we can with Zoom and do some teaching, but it's just really not the same. This industry is so tactile and it's so visual, and we're doing the best we can. And I think we're limping along with it, but it sure is nice when everyone can be in the same spot.
It will be so nice when we can do that again. Yes, it will be.
So you're talking about teaching so much. How about you? Do you stitch? Are you stitching now? What are you stitching?
I do stitch. Not as much as I used to. but I do. I enjoy it. I haven't done counted designs. I haven't done much of that lately. But with COVID, and I hate to keep harping on it, but that's what our life is now.
Right.
You're just kind of trying to put one foot in front of the other and keep going.
That's right.
And actually, what I'm stitching on now, because it appealed to my sense of humor, and you'll see what this says about me. It's a Kathy Schinkel, one of her little. It's the little stocking with the Santa with the mask.
Oh, I didn't know she had a Santa mask one. Oh,
yes. And it's one of the ones, and it's got one of the little dolls that goes in it.
And the doll has a mask too?
And the doll has a mask too, yes.
I'm going to have to look for that. That is.
Yeah, you better, yeah, because I've had great fun with that, so.
You know, we have to make, as they say, lemonade from lemons. And
there you go. Well, I've seen, I've seen that a lot of designers, I've seen Rebecca Wood is the only other one I can think of right now, but I'm sure there are many more who have put out designs with masks. And as much as we don't want to remember it, it's going to be a fun way to remember it, because
it's part of our life, you know?
That's right. And there you say, here, we're making lemonade because we can look at this and say, okay.
Yes, I mean, it is, we lived it, we're here,
that's right.
And, you know, for those of us who are still kind of plugging along, we're going to get on the other side of it and be able to talk about it later too.
We will, yes.
So, so I don't think I have any other questions. One thing that I feel like we've glossed over a bit, and I don't want to appear that way, so I will ask you really quick, is to expound on your friendship with Beth, and really quick. And I believe that it was an illness that took her from you. Is that?
Yeah, it was cervical cancer. Yes.
No. So
we met. I'm sorry.
Well, I just don't want
met through a mutual.
Glossed over it. I know it's.
I do appreciate that, because she was. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this. She was as much or more involved in it as I.
Sure.
And a lot of the ideas were hers, and the original computer work was hers. She kept me on track. She used to joke with me. We were both Virgos.
Okay.
But she was convinced that I was born under a much different moon, because Beth colored in the lines. I don't see the lines. And that used to drive her nuts some of the time, because she'd have to sort of rein me back in.
That's what made.
But yes, we were very good friends, and she's very much missed. People in the industry, students of ours who knew her, she was very gracious, very kind, and a very knowledgeable woman. She really was extraordinary.
Well, good. Well, I think it's special that stitching brings us together. And
yes,
you know, I wouldn't be talking with all the people that I am talking to here if it weren't for my pal Melissa. And so yeah, it's special when you have needlepoint in common, and when you're able to make something extra special.
It is. So, it really is. Yes.
I think that it's important to just remember that she was part of it too. So I appreciate.
Yes, and I do appreciate you. appreciate you doing that. A lot of people still do remember her very fondly.
I'm sure. Unfortunately, I didn't know her, but yeah, but I definitely know her name, and it's emblazoned on these books that we all carry around and love so much. So.
Oh yes. Absolutely, yes.
So I think we've talked about just about everything having to do with needlepoint in your life. Is there anything outside of needlepoint do you have any pets that you love dear that we don't know about? Are you?
Oh, well, I have a cat that really loves my husband more than she loves me. And we're very lucky that she hasn't wandered through here crying because I'm talking to somebody else, not talking to her.
I get it.
I have a very dear 35-year-old son who fortunately for me lives very close, or for us, for me and my husband. And like you said, I have made some extraordinary friends in this industry. And sometime when we're together, we can sit down. Lori likes to pick my brain about who was this and who was that. And I've been around a long time, so it's kind of funny to say, oh yeah, I do remember that. So,
well, we really certainly appreciate you taking time to be on here and to share with us about your books. And we mentioned it earlier, but your books are available at any local needlepoint shop. Well, many local needlepoint shops, including mine and Melissa.
Absolutely.
We both have, I think, the gamut, not the ones that were discontinued, obviously, but we've got all the books available. So
good.
People will check those out. And there's a lot of opportunity to self-teach in these books, especially with the numbering.
Yes.
So I think it would be even a great experience for those people who are stuck at home who want to kind of dive into some new stitches. So
can I just kind of throw in, when you say that, a friend of mine sent me a picture. She was making Christmas stockings for all her grandchildren, and now she has in-law grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
So what she did for the latest one was she just, and this is very her, she just traced the outline of the stocking, and she went through, she took the Father B book and did a patchwork, chose like 4 colors, 3 threads or something, and every square or shape was a different stitch from Father B.
Well, that's a great idea. You know, we get questions a lot from the podcast, just from being shoppers. How can I make things more affordable? You know, someone lost a job, or I don't have the income right now to do that. But that's a great idea. Invest in a book, which isn't outrageously priced, and it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
Invest in some canvas, and you can use threads that you've got or that you've collected.
Go to your stash.
It's a great idea.
Right.
You know, and you can do stripes, you can do squares.
Divide it up, right? Her stocking, it was gorgeous. It was just, and it was like, what a good, and when I have done things like that in the past, I will start with like a watercolor that has many colors in it, and that's my palette. I pull other threads from my stash that match the colors in that.
Great idea.
And then just go. Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah. I love it. Well, lastly, I have to thank you for wearing gingham. And I don't know if you know that you did it on purpose.
Oh, well, I didn't. Well, I would like to say I did, but.
That's all right. I'm going to give you credit for it anyway. So I got on here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Suzanne was wearing gingham. So, I mean, what better? She went with the decor here, you know. So
that's right. Yes.
Perfect. Well, I have a couple. I like to end with a lightning round just because it's fun. So since we're coming up on Thanksgiving, I'm going to ask you, pumpkin pie or apple pie?
Pumpkin.
And with whipped cream?
Oh, absolutely. 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 And actually, my recipe this year calls for dulce de leche instead of condensed milk.
Oh, man, I wish I was coming to your house. That sounds delicious. And then what about cranberry sauce or no cranberry sauce?
Nah, we're not big on that.
You know, the only thing I liked it for is the leftover turkey to use it on like a sandwich.
Yeah, I know. And that it is good that way, yes.
Just eat it with a spoon?
No.
And how about green beans or mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes.
All right, with lots of butter?
Oh, absolutely.
Or gravy. That's always a conundrum too.
Well, you can have both.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, really.
Why choose?
It's Thanksgiving, and the calories don't count, right? Yes.
True.
Yeah, right.
You are exactly right. Well, Suzanne, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your talent and for continuing to plug on. And I guess that's it.
Well, thank you very much. I was very flattered when you contacted me, and I appreciate. And I've had a great time. Thank you.
Well, good. And like I told you, you're a rock star to me. So I appreciate
well, thank you.
Maybe someday we can have a book signing.
That would be fun.
It would be.
I would like that.
All right,
Okay.
you take care.
Take care. Stay safe.
Yes, thank you.